What's going on, Dolphins fans? It is your boy Dillon, and I got some news for you today. It looks like, first of all, the NFL has released the preseason schedule, so we do know who we are going to play now. It looks like week 1, we will be playing versus the Falcons, so that is at Miami. That's going to be in Miami. The second game is at Tampa Bay, so we're going to be playing in Tampa Bay against the Buccaneers. That week, we also do have joint practices from all reports so far. Don't expect that to change, so we should be having joint practices with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that week. For me, it's kind of whatever. You know, if they do it, cool. If they don't do it, cool. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I do think it is good for the guys, though, because it does give them an opportunity to, you know, practice against somebody else before the preseason comes. Obviously, you know, they're going to be in the second game, so they'll already have played against somebody else. But it is nice and refreshing and a change of pace for the guys, you know, to get out there and to, you know, practice against somebody else instead of having to hit the same old guys all the time. And then week 3 is in Miami against Jacksonville. That game actually is supposed to be televised nationally. So obviously all of the preseason games will be televised or, you know, broadcast in some form or fashion in like South Florida. And for those of us outside of South Florida in the local areas, you know, for me, I'm in California, Southern California, so, you know, we'll have to find other ways of watching it. But that third game against Jacksonville is going to be nationally televised. And look, man, honestly, this preseason means a lot more this year because, look, I mean, the fact of the matter is I don't agree with the way that they're going with this franchise right now, and it'll be a good proving point. I mean, I know it doesn't really mean like shit, but it will be a good test to see, you know, if, you know, to start seeing the chemistry, the culture, see if he's getting these guys together, see how well they play, see some of these unknown guys, which I'll get to in a minute because there have been some more signings. But, you know, see, because a lot of these guys are from obscure fucking places and, you know, we don't know shit about them, you know, whatever. So it'll be a good opportunity to get a look at these guys. And look, we don't even, it's the dress rehearsal, you know, quote unquote, but we don't even really know who half our fucking starters are going to be. So particularly on the offense, and the offensive line. So look, I mean, you know, the preseason is going to be huge for sure to see, you know, what this team looks like, if it looks like anything. Right? Like if they have any kind of identity, if we're going to be able to, if there's anything distinguishable here as far as, you know, a plan or a scheme or how they're going to be working things. So the preseason is going to be important. Week 4, we play at New Orleans. So we're going to be playing the Saints in week 4 of the preseason. So that's all for that. Now, the other stuff that I got to talk about is I want to talk about some of these players that have been signed, that the Dolphins have signed. So I have mixed feelings about it. Okay. So it's a mixed bag on, you know, my perspective on it. Right. And so I'll give you the facts. And here, to be clear, right off the bat, I don't know everything about all these guys. I'm still learning as I go, but I wanted to get you, you know, I've already reported a little bit of this, but I want to, you know, get you all these names. They did sign more guys and so on and so forth, and I'll update you as we go and as I get more information and we learn more about them. You know, and then obviously, you know, if they stand out in the preseason and in practices and so on and so forth, we'll hear more about them. And then, you know, if they stick and if they make the roster after the cut down. So getting into that, I had already reported that they had signed guard Michael Dunn. And so all of these players that I'm about to tell you about all came from the AAF, the American Allegiance of Football. I believe it is. I think that's what it is. I still haven't even gone back to look it up. I haven't really had time. But I'm pretty sure the AAF, either way, right? It was a new football league. For those of you who don't know, it was experimental and it failed, essentially. I mean, keeping it real, it failed. It didn't last but just a few months. So, you know, it is what it is, right? But it is important part of the context, right? So to talk about these guys. But let me go ahead and let you know about all the guys first, and then I'll talk a little bit more about it. So guard Michael Dunn, linebacker Jaron Elliott, running back Kenneth Farrow, offensive tackle Jared Jones-Smith, linebacker Tyrone Holmes, wide receiver Reese Horn, and defensive tackle Joy Imubu. So first of all, they got a guard, a tackle for the offensive line, so that is more depth. It is more guys, you know, in camp to see if any of them, you know, rise to the occasion. But, you know, we'll see, right? They got a couple linebackers, one including Jaron Elliott, who is, you know, a pass rusher. He had 7.5 sacks when he was in the AAF. He led the AAF for the short period of time that it existed. We got a running back, Kenneth Farrow. We lost a couple of them, so that's good. Wide receiver, Reese Horn. All right, sure. And defensive tackle, we got a defensive tackle in there as well. So Joey Mubu. So they did, the good side to this is they do have more bodies in camp, right? They got some of the guys. I mean, essentially, though, if you think about it, if you're being realistic, it's almost like, you know, undrafted free agents, right? I'll get into that a little bit more. But so the good part is that they definitely filled some holes in regard to, like, they have guys at those positions. Part of the major problem is, though, is they still don't know shit about any of these guys. And a lot of these guys, unfortunately, just... Look, I mean, the facts are this. Let's take linebacker Jaron Elliott, for example. Okay? He played in the AAF. It was a failed league. The league itself failed. That's not on him, right? You know, he went in and he did his thing. He led the league. It was a very short period of time. It was a few months, and they played several games. I don't know how many games exactly, so I'm not really sure how many sacks per game he got. I would have to look into that. Probably, you know, update you on that later. But he did have 7.5 sacks. He led the league. He's versatile. He can be a linebacker or play up on the defensive line. So that is good if we're going to have a hybrid 4-3-3-4 defense. But at the same time, and I know a lot of people are going to get super pissy about this, but I like full context. And this is a major part of the context. So Jaron Elliott actually came into the league a few years ago. He came into the NFL a few years ago. Okay, and part of the reason why I'm actually going to explain this and him in particular is because somebody was up in the comments section talking about or comparing him to Cameron Wake. And so I'll get into that in a second. But so he came into the league a few years ago. He played 3 years in the league, I believe, with the Saints or the Seahawks. I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, he came in the league. He was in the league for 3 years. He didn't really do anything, though. He wasn't a starter, none of that, right? And then he fell out of the league, right? He went to the AAF. The league itself failed. He did lead the league, the AAF, in sacks, but realistically, I mean, look, it's not entirely his fault. Like, it's not his fault that the AAF failed. But look, I mean, he wasn't good enough before to get into the league, right? So, or I mean, he was good enough before to get in the league, but he wasn't good enough to really contribute that much, to be, you know, a major impact. He wasn't a star or a stud, you know, back then. And now he's 3 years or 4 years older. And, you know, so that's part of the context, right? And that is important. Now, does that guarantee that he's going to be a failure going forward? No, but it also doesn't guarantee that he's going to be a success. Like, if you focus on the fact that he had 7.5 sacks and led the AAF, on its face, that's wonderful. But then when you add in those other things that, you know, he didn't stick in the league and he didn't stick in the AAF and that the AAF failed, right? So it's like, and not only that, but he did well in the AAF, but what about the level of competition? So obviously the AAF is all guys that couldn't make it to the NFL. The NFL is the cream of the crop, right? There might be worse teams than other teams in the NFL, but when players and stuff and coaches say that, you know, everybody in the league is good and is it's true, because the NFL is the best of the best, right? That's why players oftentimes have such a difficulty transitioning from college to the NFL, because it's faster, it's so much different, it's a job now, you got to be a professional. There's so many things, right? That's why, like, draft picks, you don't know, right? There's a lot of mystery there, and you don't know if they're actually going to be anything, right? So, you know, you can't look at just the fact that he led the league or the AAF in sacks, right? There's a lot more that goes into that. The competition, you know, at least theoretically, isn't, you know, on the level of the NFL. So is he going to be able to keep that up when he gets to this level? Who knows? Maybe, but it's certainly no guarantee. And unfortunately, the reality is that it's a lot less likely. Okay, and then not only that, but Ricardo Lewis, he was a guy that he was in the league. He didn't play at all last year because he just wasn't good enough. Nobody wanted to sign him. Ricardo Lewis, you know, nobody wanted to sign him. Somebody wanted to sign him, they would have, right? So that's part of what I'm trying to get across to you guys, is the full context. If this is not really the best way. Like, if the idea here is that this is part of, look, I'm not saying don't take guys. I'm not saying don't bring these guys in and use them as bodies in camp. Absolutely, sure. Take advantage of the fact that there are players from the AAF that you know, try and get the cream of the crop from the AAF, that apparently Jayrone Elliott is. But now that he may have been the cream of the crop in the AAF, but now he's at the bottom of the ladder in the NFL. So, look, I mean, it's important. And frankly, I honestly would rather take, and I saw an article, and I'll get to the, actually, you know what, let me get to the comparisons to Cam Wake real quick before I go on to the next thing. So in the comments, they were like, yeah, but Cam Wake had a similar situation. Kind of, but not really. Cameron Wake didn't come into the league at all. He never came into the league, right? No team wanted him. Every team passed him up. So there's a difference between him and Jayrone Elliott, right? Yes, Jayrone Elliott wasn't successful in the NFL and then went to another league, and now he's coming back. Cameron Wake wasn't successful in the NFL because of the fact that he never actually made it into the NFL. Jayrone Elliott did, and he had 3 years to prove to people that he was worth being on a team, worth being a starter, and so on and so forth. He didn't. And then he left the NFL because nobody wanted him. And then he went to the AAF. And sure, he led the league there, but again, the competition was probably not nearly as high. You know, the quality of talent and stuff like that is probably not nearly as good. And so that plays a part into it, right? That's part of the context. And so Cameron Wake, he went to the CFL, obviously different, but another program, right? The Canadian Football League, and he dominated. The 2 years that he was there, because he was there for 2 years, he played in the CFL for 2 years, he led the CFL in sacks, okay? And then he came and he beasted for the Dolphins for 10 years, right? So there is a pretty dramatic difference between Cameron Wake and Jayrone Elliott. Again, does that mean Jayrone Elliott's going to be a failure? No. But unfortunately, when you weigh everything and you look at everything in the full context, he has a much less, he has a far greater, he has a larger hill to climb, right? It's going to be a lot harder for him to do and to live up. Like, you know, some articles are like, well, if he can just meet half of what Cam Wake, you know, did, then he'd be a bargain. Sure, but that's a pretty big if. And so real quick, just to kind of juxtapose a little bit to the Ryan Tannehill, Ryan Fitzpatrick conversation, it's the same thing, right? Ryan Tannehill is better in all regards, right? So, you know, and I'm specifically talking about how Ryan Tannehill came in the league and he stuck with a team for the first 7 years of his career. Ryan Fitzpatrick came in the league and then just bounced around. And then on top of that, all of Ryan Tannehill's stats, everything is better than him. He's got a ton of franchise records. I don't think Ryan Fitzpatrick has any franchise records on any team. He doesn't have any NFL records, I'm pretty sure, either. Ryan Tannehill's got one. So, look, man, I mean, it's not a guarantee of failure, but it's not a guarantee of success, so we can't give them credit yet. And unfortunately, again, the odds are far less likely that they're going to be successful when you add everything in, right? Frankly, I'd rather personally have just, maybe taken one of these dudes, maybe take Jaron Elliott, right? And maybe, Michael Dunn. I'd already reported that he was signed. Maybe take a couple of them, but you take 7. Now that's 7 guys, because you can only have 90 guys in camp. That's 7 guys now that you can't take as undrafted free agents, right? And so this is another article that I saw, and people were talking about, well, that's 7 less people that they got to take as undrafted free agents, and made it sound like it was a good thing. Oh, you don't have to worry about it then. I would argue that it's actually not great, and the reason why is because, again, these guys are guys who either, came into the league and failed. They're, middling guys, backups. They are, dudes who couldn't, make it to the NFL at all, period. So they had to try another league. And not only that, but a good portion of them are a few years older than what the undrafted free agents are going to be. The undrafted free agents are all going to be, 20, 21. These guys are like 23, 24, 25. So there's that goes against them too, right? So when you take everything in full context, frankly, if it was me, the smart thing would have been to take maybe 1 or 2, right? Like Jaron Elliott. He's the cream of the crop of the AAF. So take him, right? Great. But then leave those other 6 open spots for the young, fresh guys coming out of college who, blah, blah, blah. I think that you're far more likely to find, gems and guys who are going to stick and so on and so forth. And even guys who can contribute now, right? Because these guys, a lot of them, you can't even say that they have experience, because a lot of them didn't even make it to the NFL, and all they really have is college experience, right? So, I mean, look, it is what it is. This is the course that they are taking. Now, we have to, but, the upside is that they did get a bunch of guys at positions we do need to fill. So, that's where they get credit. The rest of it, it's not the course that I would have taken for sure. Like I said, I would have definitely taken like 1 or 2 of them, and then I would have filled the rest of those spots with guys as undrafted free agents for the reasons that I mentioned. And so we have to see what they do in the draft. I'll tell you this much though, if they end up chasing a quarterback in this draft, particularly if they move up to get a guy, I mean, literally, look, I don't know what could be worse. Like, they'd literally be doing everything they possibly can to fail. Like, I'm sorry. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. I know a lot of people don't agree with that. But, I mean, it's just because they're doing everything, like, horribly inefficient at that point. So we'll see how the draft goes. And look, again though, right, because a lot of y'all up in the comment section are like, yo, you're not even a real Dolphins fan because you're hating. No, I'm not hating on them. I just disagree with what they say, and a lot of what they say and what they've been doing. That doesn't mean that, whatever. I'm not a bandwagon fan. Just because I don't like what they're doing doesn't mean I'm like going to jump ship and go be another fan. Like, I've had dumbasses be like, well, why don't you go be a Jets fan because you love Adam Gase so much? No, I love Adam Gase, so I'm going to follow his career, but I'm a fucking Dolphins fan. Get it? Got it? Good. So I'm always going to be a Dolphins fan. I'm going to be realistic with you when the games come around, but I'm always going to fucking side with the Dolphins and be like, yeah, we're always going to win. But I'll tell you realistically, I'll be like, look, honestly, realistically, we're probably going to lose this bitch. This team's going to hammer the shit out of us, but I'm going with the Dolphins no matter what. I am a through and through Dolphins fan. I bleed aqua and orange. But I don't agree with them. with a lot of the things that they're doing. But either way, it doesn't matter because I advocate that they have 5 years. And that's the thing. A lot of y'all motherfuckers up in there, you know, just talking this shit, being like, I'm the hater and I'm not the real Dolphins fan. Fuck y'all. Y'all ain't the real Dolphins fans. You know why? Because y'all will be the motherfuckers that in 2 or 3 years after we've sucked big old fucking you know what, y'all are gonna be the motherfuckers that are gonna be clamoring, beating the fucking walls, being like, Brian Flores sucks, and this coaching staff and this regime sucks, and they all need to be fired, and blah 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 blah, crying and bitching and moaning, right? And then you're still gonna be up in the comment section, you know, saying dumb, ignorant shit, right? Cool, whatever. I don't care. If they prove me wrong, though, I'll be happy to admit it. And either way, even if they do fail, I say give them 5 years. Give them an opportunity. Give them an opportunity. It's like a business, right? So if you start a business, everybody says that the first 2 years of a business are the hardest, and that's when most businesses fail. Okay, so since the NFL is such a business, why do we think it's such a good idea to every 1, 2, 3 years just completely fucking tear things down to the studs, right? And a lot of people are like, oh, the way you do a rebuild is to tear things down to the studs. No, I disagree. When you have a team like we did with a lot of the players that we did, a lot of talent, a lot of leadership, so on and so forth, you keep that, you retain that, and that's your building block. You don't cast everything off, tear everything down until you have nothing. When you tear down to nothing, you have nothing. Nothing, nada, zero, zilch, nada. You have nothing. So when you have nothing, now, to be fair, we still do have good young talent on this team, so it's not like we are at nothing. But a lot of people are defending the complete cast off. Like, a lot of people are saying dumb shit like they weren't talented or, you know, whatever. Like, really? Frank Gore, Danny Amendola, Cameron Wake, like these, and for as much as people might hate Tannehill, like, come on, y'all are fucking crazy if you think that we didn't have a major fucking talent purge. The national media fucking recognizes it. They love to say it because they love shitting on the Dolphins. So why don't you motherfuckers realize it, right? Anyway, so I advocate for them to have 5 years. But I'm guessing all y'all dumbass motherfuckers that like to just be all up in your emotions and say ignorant shit that isn't based in fact at all, y'all motherfuckers are going to be jumping ship, you know, once we have 3 straight fucking subpar under 500 seasons, and, you know, we do fucking super shitty for a couple of them because we had a major purge, you know, it's a first year head coach with a fucking brand new staff, blah 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 blah, this, that, and the other. We'll see. We got a little ways to go. So look, upcoming, I mean, I would venture to guess they're probably not going to sign too many more people at this point, because from now until the draft, because one, it's already the 9th, so that means the draft is at the end of the month, only a couple weeks away. Also, we have to sign our entire draft class, which as of right now is going to be 7 guys. It could be more if we trade back. It could be less if we trade up. And then we have to also, you know, then look at undrafted free agents. So I would venture to guess there aren't going to be too many more signings, if any at all. So look, the next big thing is the draft. We have to wait and see how they handle that. And, man, look, dude, and you know what? Because I'm thinking about it now. I'm getting this feeling, man. I bet you anything they're going to say later, you know what? We signed a guard and an offensive tackle, 2 linebackers, one that's a hybrid that can play on the line, a defensive tackle, a running back, and a wide receiver from the AAF. We got all these guys. We brought in Chris Reed. We brought in Eric Rowe. We brought in Ricardo Lewis. Hey guys, we brought in them tight ends. Hey guys, look, we're all right. This means now we can go get our quarterback. because I know Steven Ross fucking has a hard-on for a quarterback. He wants a fucking quarterback. The goddamn fan base, at least like a third of it or a half of it, wants a fucking quarterback. Dude, I'm telling you, man, if they go up and they get a fucking quarterback, I'm telling you, man, it's going to end up backfiring. You know, hear me now, quote me later, and we still have to watch it and see how it plays out. To be fair, we have to wait and see how it plays out. But if they do that, and look, I mean, they're setting the table. They're setting the table. The writing's on the walls. The writing's on the walls. So look, if they move up and trade away draft capital and then go chase a quarterback, I'm telling you, man, it's gonna be the wrong path. And look, again, I'll end it on this. That's how I feel. That is my perspective. And it is based off of the information, the data that I have now, which includes the moves that they made, the things that they've said, previous regimes and things that they've done, what other teams have done, history, not just Dolphins, but like as the league, how have these things worked out in the past for other teams, so on and so forth, right? When it comes to evaluating players, I use stats and statistics, like when I compared Ryan Tannehill and Ryan Fitzpatrick, right? So on and so forth. So, but some of this is my perspective, and so we do have to wait and see how it plays out. So I'm telling you right now, I believe that this is the wrong path and this is not the way to build the team, especially if they end up chasing a quarterback in the first round and then neglect to take, a high-end offensive or defensive lineman in the first round, and then also trade away draft capital now and next year. But they do have an opportunity to prove me wrong. And even if they prove me right one last time, I still say give him 5 years. So with that, I'm going to end, guys. I hope you guys enjoy my show. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think of all this. And of course, as always, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I'm out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.